Hello, one and all. A rather weary, more weary than expected, Persolaise, greeting you and welcoming you to episode 207 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, coming to you live from YouTube. And I'm just going to reach over and do my light correcting thing because it seems a little bit dark to me. Does that help? Is that better? Oh, perhaps we can't fix it today. White balance sorts yourself out. No, well, maybe it will get sorted out later on. Thank you very much for tuning into this special episode. I'm going to go over onto the tablet to make sure that everything is coming through loud and clear. I get the adverts same as you do. I have made it pretty much by the skin of my teeth because earlier today when I thought, oh yes, I should be able to do a video at this time, it's 7:30 here in the UK, I thought, yes, no problem. And then almost everything seems to have conspired to stop me from doing it. But I thought, no, the best thing I could possibly do is to settle down with some friends from across the world, people who I don't see but with whom I can communicate, and it'll be fine, and we will enjoy exploring these beauties that I have got here, and we will try to get through all four, and I will explain what it is that we're doing in a moment. First comment went to Ryan, who says, we're in here early waiting for Sire P. Hamlet is saying hello. Lal was saying good evening from Bahrain. Who else have we got? Lots and lots of hellos. Eric is saying hello in hot Houston. It's pretty hot here as well, and I've got these lights shining in my face, and I thought maybe the lights weren't such a good idea. Rachel, hello from the scorching Cornwall. Andre is in Manchester. Cutie Camille is in Minneapolis. Gosh. Hi all from the New Forest, says Natasha. And so on. Yasu from Athens says Natashef. Watching from Seattle, says Sabra. Very, very warm greetings to you all. And I've just seen somebody saying, you don't have the new masterpiece Sauvage Elixir. I don't even know about this Sauvage thing. The only thing I know about it is that there is apparently this version of Sauvage, but I've only heard about it from all you lot on Instagram and on YouTube. I haven't smelt it. I didn't know anything about it until the first comment from you. What's the idea behind today? Well, as we're kind of winding things down now for the extended summer break here on Persolaise, I thought we should try to finish with a bit of a bang. So we've got this video, which is going to be focusing on Dior's extraits. I will do my very, 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 very best to squeeze in another one. It will probably be this coming weekend, so either on the Saturday or the Sunday. Stay tuned to social media channels to see when that video might come up, and I'll try and do it, another sort of top 10 best of, something along those lines, but I'm not making any promises because things are going a little bit hectic at the moment. And of course, if you're watching the recording, this will mean nothing to you, but whether you're watching live, whether you're watching the recording, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so, and please do consider supporting my work on Ko-fi. You will find the details of all of that in the video description below. But we need to get a move on because it's been 3 minutes already and we haven't even talked about a single perfume. I have been meaning to do this for some time. Papa, can you hear me, says Gavin. Yes, son, what can I do for you? I've been meaning to do this for a while, because some time ago I did a video on a few of Chanel's extraits, okay? The sort of what we call the pure perfumes, or what some people call pure perfumes. We shouldn't really call them that because they're not pure perfume at all. They are still the juice that has been diluted in alcohol. Perhaps something in the region of 25% concentration, maybe more, but it is not pure perfume like an attar. So I did that video on the Chanels. I will link to that below. That video went down very well. I enjoyed doing it. I think you enjoyed watching it. Lots of people have enjoyed watching it since. And I thought it was very important to showcase the fact that Chanel are still doing these extraits. Guerlain still do some as well. And then I thought that we don't talk enough about the fact that Dior still do a few. Certainly not as many as they used to. In fact, on the UK version of the Dior website, there are only 3 extraits available now, and they're the 3 that you can see here in the front row. They're only selling Miss Dior, Poison, and J'Adore. So strictly speaking, I shouldn't be doing the Diorissimo, but the Diorissimo is a recent-ish purchase. I think it was maybe something in the region of 3 years ago that I bought it, And I gather that it is still available in a few markets, and in certain countries it is considered to be part of the current Dior Extrait lineup. I may be wrong, but you can also see from the packaging that it kind of doesn't tie in with the rest of them, because these all say Extrait de Parfum. They've all got this really rather beautiful presentation. They come in these boxes that these three are all François Demachy reinterpretations of the original formulae, trying to stay as faithful to them as possible. Perhaps I'll read one or two of them. But the Diorissimo extrait, you can see, looks quite different, although I'm pretty sure this is a Demachy one as well. So I thought, let's do them, because having smelt them, I was really, really taken with them, really impressed. And I thought, well, out of the sort of holy trinity of Guerlain, Dior, and Chanel, we seem to give Dior the toughest time, maybe together with Guerlain, because the general feeling is that they don't release things as good as they used to be. Personally, I think that in the final reckoning, I think that's an unfair assessment, but perhaps we can talk about that another time. So I wanted to do this in a way to redress the balance, to say, look, they are still putting resources and time and effort into the extraits. So let's get going, because we don't want to be here for ages, but we do want to smell all four. What are some people saying? Do Dior still do the elixir précieux? Oh, so those were the oils, weren't they? There was an amber oil, I think. There was a musk oil. There was an oud oil. I don't know. You should check it out on the line. Natasha's saying, I remember buying the Diorissimo Splash on the ferry back from France after a school trip back in the late 80s, early 90s. Gosh, that's a good memory. Gavin, Dior has badly reformulated so much. That's why they annoy. Well, and I think the Dior thing of that they haven't been very, very respectful, I suppose, and faithful when it comes to their heritage. For instance, making a perfume that they call Sauvage, making a perfume that they've called Joy. That's not even being respectful to another brand's heritage. The whole Miss Dior thing, messing around with that, the Dior Homme thing. The likes of us do get intensely irritated by that sort of thing, don't we? And because Guerlain haven't gone down that route. Hello from San Francisco, says Gita. Diorella is so degraded too, says Gavin, etc. I wore Diorella the other day, and mine is, I think, a fairly current formulation. And I loved it. I have to say, I loved it. Anyway, let's get going. So let's start with the one which is perhaps not part of the lineup anymore. And it's also the lightest one anyway. Now, I think it's also maybe the weakest of the four, sadly. Although that's not to denigrate it too much, because it isn't bad. And this is terrible smelling these on a blotter, but I think you've got to, because otherwise I would be unable to differentiate between anything. Diorissimo is probably the hardest one to do well at the moment, maybe with the exception of, well, maybe Poison would be there, although the Poison is pretty good. The Poison is rather lovely. So, for the few of you who may not be aware, Diorissimo is an absolute classic of 20th century perfumery. Originally came out in 1956, composed by the one and only Edmond Rudnitzer, and considered to be, for the longest time ever, and probably actually even still now, the most gorgeous, the most realistic, the most breathtaking, multifaceted representation of Lily of the Valley that has ever been poured into a bottle. And it really, really is something else. And on certain days, because my favorites change from day to day, from week to week, but on certain days, I'm just convinced that a vintage, a good quality, in good shape, vintage bottle of Diorissimo Esprit de Parfum is probably my favorite perfume ever. Sometimes that changes. Sometimes it's Abbey Rouge, as you know, if you're regular viewers. But Diorissimo is just the most divine thing when it's in good shape. So this is the extrait. Oh gosh, actually, it's smelling pretty good today. maybe I'm feeling more receptive to it, or maybe it's something about the fact that it is on paper. So my issue with current Diorissimo, and it's not necessarily Dior's fault, okay? Diorissimo has suffered because one of the main materials that is needed to recreate that Lily of the Valley smell is there are two actually, if I'm not mistaken. One you can't use at all, and one you can't use very much of. And so basically, perfumers are stuck because there have been a few replacements and substitutes that have been created and offered and suggested over the years, but none of them has been quite as accurate and convincing as those original ones. Lyral and Lilial, thank you very much, Andre, except I can't remember which is the one that is completely banned. It may be Lyral, I can't remember, but you can go online and look at this stuff. Sites like Bois de Jasmin, Perfume Shrine, certain parts of base notes. Those are the sorts of places where you should be looking for that kind of information. Reliable source of info. Lyral is, thank you very much, I thought it was. Jean-Claude Eleanor, when he created Muguet Porcelaine for Hermès, had a go at revisiting Diorissimo and making a modern Lily of the Valley, and I think he had a pretty good go. He decided that maybe the way to do it would be by creating a Lily of the Valley which was linked up with lychee, so that the waterier aspects of Lily of the Valley were emphasized. And Muguet Porcelaine is very good, but it's not Diorissimo, and I think Jean-Claude Eleanor himself would be the first to admit that it's not Diorissimo. When I interviewed Frederic Malle, one of the times I interviewed Frederic Malle a few years ago, I asked him whether he's tried to crack the Lily of the Valley conundrum, because I was sure that somebody like him would have tried to crack it, and he said as well that whenever he's tried to approach that, he's just failed, and so he doesn't want to release a Lily of the Valley unless it's going to be a really good Lily of the Valley. Personally, I actually think he's come extremely close. Again, as regular viewers will know, because of course Olivier Jacobetti's En Passant is pretty good, even though it's also about lilac and freesia, etc. But if you want something that's got a strong Lily of the Valley note in it, you would do a lot worse than going to En Passant. But this, so where I was going with all of that is my main issue with Diorissimo at the moment is that, to start with, it smells too harsh. It smells too much like paint stripper. The green notes at the top are just too strident, they really feel as though they're stripping the inside of your nose, whereas original Diorissimo never did that. It was very, very smooth from the word go. But this today, maybe the weather's warm enough, maybe the lights are helping, maybe it helps that it's on paper, maybe my skin doesn't like Diorissimo, but this is doing a pretty good job, I have to say. So actually, I'm heartened by the fact that Diorissimo can still smell rather beautiful. There is, I think current Diorissimo also feels as though it's just been ever so slightly castrated. Terrible word to go from that to Eid Mubarak. But yes, let's wish everybody a happy Eid around the world. That was the worst segue ever. Let's move on. But to all of you celebrating Eid Mubarak. But yeah, it seems as though current Diorissimo has also been stripped a little bit of its guts, because Edmond Rudnitska understood as well that you needed to put into the composition a prominent civet note, and that's what makes the Esprit de Parfum so beautiful as well, because then you've suddenly got all of these contrasts opening up to you. You've got the greenness, you've got the grassiness, you've got that gentle white floral feel, you've got the sweet floral feel, things that Lily of the Valley, facets that Lily of the Valley shares with sweet pea and freesia, and then there was the earth, and there was the funkiness, and there was the suggestion that actually Lily of the Valley, or the Lily of the Valley, is poisonous. Somebody's picking up on the castration thing. Gavin says castrated is wrong because singers' voices generally go higher when made castrati, and Diorissimo is very high-pitched in original form. But that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it is just high-pitched. I think it's got a broader range. If you haven't already, try and pick up somewhere a bottle in good shape of the Esprit de Parfum. We need to move on though, but it's nice smelling this and thinking, okay, it can still be done. Let's move on to the ones that are currently available, that are very, very definitely François Damachy creations. And let's start at the beginning with the very first Dior scent ever. Miss Dior, of course, originally from 1947, composed by Paul Vacher, and also some people will say Jean Carl. Let's look at this little booklet, actually, because This one I don't think I've even... Oh no, I did open it. There's not a huge amount to read here. It says, Miss Dior Original Extrait de Parfum is the epitome of Dior's perfumery expertise, perpetuating the tradition of fine craftsmanship so dear to Dior. The emblematic Accord of 1947 is faithfully reinterpreted by Dior's perfumer creator in an intense trail of scent, a bold yet elegant green chypre that blends ingredients like galbanum, jasmine sambac absolute, Indonesian patchouli essence, and rose de may absolute, a rose from the harvests of the Domaine de Manon in Grasse, exclusive to the House of Dior. And then it talks a little bit about the bottle. Each bottle is crowned with a glass cabochon and engraved with a houndstooth pattern. Once the stage of bordeauxage has been delicately performed to preserve the fragrance perfectly, the ladies in the Dior workshop hand tie the legendary dovetail couture bow in white satin. And I think it's actually pretty special that this still happens. Let us smell it. Eric says, I had some 80s Diorissimo parfum and it was lovely. I sadly shattered it. Scandal. Wherever it was must have smelled amazing for ages afterwards. Now, this, when I smelt as well, when I got this bottle, I thought, oh wow, this actually smells great. And I wore it for a couple of days. And I thought, okay, so you can still do a pretty good old school bitter green chypre. I never smelt the original. I mean, perhaps I smelt it on somebody, but even that would have been in the late 70s, early 80s. So some people would say that probably it would have been reformulated then. And look at the bottle. The bottle is, I think, still really beautiful. I just think it's so heartwarming that they're still making these. They may not make very many of them. And as far as extraits go, actually, they're... I mean, I know it's because in the UK they retail at £165, which obviously is a lot of money, but it also isn't, relatively speaking, for 15 mils of extrait. Anyway, this is already wafting towards me, and yes, it's really, really, really good. It's just a really personable and personality-filled, leathery green chypre. I mean, the galbanum comes leaping out with that feel of peppers, and there is a pepperiness to it as well. And as it says, as the little card says, the floral notes are in the jasmine and the rose, but they're made just so much more assertive, and they've got so much more kick to them thanks to the galbanum and that leathery feel. A really very, very, very convincing mossy chypre feel. Actually, that makes me think. I ought to look to see whether it says that it contains... there you go, oak moss extract. So it must have some, right? At least a few drops. And tree moss extract. What else? Or everything else is probably what you'd expect. But the next time you're in a sort of larger Dior establishment that might stock some of these, ask to smell it. This is so prim in a 1940s way. I think if it were... Oh, by the way, Rich Mitch, do you have any thoughts on opium extrait pure perfume? I'm pretty sure I talked about the current or current-ish formulation of opium extrait a while ago. So just search for it. Type in Persolaise opium and something should come up. I think if it were released today, it would be seen as being quite dangerous, quite edgy, quite animalic actually with the leatheriness. But when it came out, I would imagine that it was prim and maybe a bit quirky. I mean, it obviously tied in with the new look, which was quite revolutionary. But I love the fact that this was released from a very, very mainstream house, clearly saying that this is what women should smell like. And for ages, women did, right? Because Miss Dior was so successful. The dryness is wonderful. We just do not get enough dryness in perfume creation. There is this emphasis on sweet, 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 calories, calories, calories. Of course, sometimes the sweetness can be done very well. But this is an excellent shape, I think, this particular version. And it lasts quite decently as well. No, I was really impressed. Really, really, really taken with it. Fabulous live stream, says Aroma from Heaven. Hope everyone is having a fabulous day. Thank you very much for tuning in. Oh, and people talking to... Oh, Eric says, I do have a bottle or two of Miss Dior Extra as well. A green gut punch. Yeah, is it a gut punch, though? It's more like a smile that actually just goes... you know? So it's not a gut punch so much, but it's somebody who does a perfect sort of straight-to-camera look and gives you a killer, devastating smile, and yet never seems to be anything less than impeccably polite. It's a very, very polite perfume, I think, that has just got such great guts. It's really, really wonderfully assertive. Anna says hello from Warsaw. Cześć, dobry wieczór, witamy. Ramsey says, I have vintage Diorella as a man in his 30s who just loves vintage fragrances. It is gorgeous. I was just saying, I wore Diorella, not vintage, the other day, and fantastic. Hi there, Persolaise, says Angela, and gang, just able to tune in now. A lovely surprise, and what a treat, Dior Live. Thanks for tuning in. We need to move on. I will definitely be doing a blotter update on these, okay? Because I think you need to know how they develop. Let's now move on. Let's go right forward in time because I think we should save the beast for the end. So now let's go straight to 1999, which is of course the release date of the original J'Adore. This extrait is very definitely François Damaschi creation as well. And isn't this, don't you think this is, I mean, we don't do bottle freaking out here, okay? But when it's a beautiful bottle, it does deserve a mention. How fantastic that they've done like a proper mini J'Adore bottle for the extrait. I think it's great. I think it's really, really wonderful. What does the little booklet say? Notice Damaschi didn't get a name check in the Miss Dior one. I'm pretty sure he does in the other ones. Let's see. Let us see. Let us open the envelope. And the winner is... could you please compare the Galban a minute with Chanel 19, says Ashfaq. Well, not dissimilar, except of course 19 goes down the hyacinth iris route, which maybe makes it colder, whereas this is drier. Let's see. So they've got the same opening paragraph. Its olfactory signature is a bouquet of generous and intense flowers that create a beautiful harmony. A score composed by Dior's perfumer creator using exceptional ingredients, Comoro Islands Ylang Ylang essence, Jasmine Sambac Absolute and Rose de May Absolute from the harvests of the Domaine de Manon. So not a huge amount there. Now, the original J'Adore was composed by Calice Becker, probably one of the finest things she's ever done. I really, really loved original J'Adore. It was just a perfect, sunny, outgoing, translucent jasmine ylang ylang. There was nothing overly heavy about it. It was, you know, sometimes when scents manage to do the whole jasmine thing of catching the scent of jasmine on the breeze. And I remember buying a bottle at the airport for Madame Persolaise on one of our trips to India, and that totally became the smell of India. And I think that was the Absolute that I bought for her, which was probably the best version that was available at the time. Original J'Adore was beautiful, says Yura. The new formulation is a shadow of what it was. I don't disagree, but the extrait is not bad at all. So Eric says, I only have a tiny mini of original J'Adore. The current stuff is perfectly nice. And what was the version that came out not that long ago? Was it called Infinissime? That was decent. J'Adore has been over-adored, hasn't it? With all of the sort of proliferation. I need to be so careful with these bottles because I'm usually quite a clumsy person, actually, so that's why every single phone that I own has to have a case, and every watch that I wear has to have a protective covering, but there we go. That seems safe for the moment. J'Adore has been over-adored, and there are as many J'Adore flankers, I think, as there are, I don't know, what's a good analogy to think of? I don't know. Insert your own Blackadder-style analogy. But this is okay. This is okay. I think it's heavier. When Persolaise sprays an extrait on a blotter, I just can't look. I know. I know. It feels like such a waste. Ashfaq says, I can't imagine you ever being clumsy. No, I am quite clumsy, actually, I think. I probably am quite clumsy. Because I'm a words person, right? I need to sit at desks and just be using a pen or typing. anything else that gets a little bit fiddly is too much of a challenge. What made, as we were just saying, what made the original J'Adore so special for me was this almost glassy translucency. Okay, it was very much a scent of early afternoon and beautiful sunshine and blue skies. This is um, this is heavier, but then I guess it would be being an extrait, and there seems to be more emphasis on the rose than there wasn't on the jasmine. I always seem to remember it being very much a jasmine scent. It's it's probably, as was J'Adore, I suppose. It's probably out of the four the most straightforward, the most predictable floral. Maybe you might even go so far as to say the most generic floral. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And there's a nice kind of sandalwoody creaminess in the base. Um, and I guess actually it's the least distinctive. You wouldn't be able to mistake the Miss Dior for anything else. The Diorissimo certainly you wouldn't, and the one that we're coming to you certainly wouldn't. Whereas you might smell J'Adore and think, oh, this very much belongs in the territory of lots of similar-ish ylang ylang, jasmine, solar florals. Was this a sort of precursor of the solar sense? Um, but there's a nice touch of green in there. And it's the rose. The rose seems to be coming out a lot more. Maybe it's something to do with the heat. Max says, I couldn't get into any of Dior's stuff at all. It smells so bad. It doesn't smell all bad. Come on, it doesn't smell. Has Poison Extrait already been covered? No, we are working our way up to that one. Or we're descending to that one. Okay, we're trying to find our base notes. And Ryan says, have you tried Eau Noire? Brother Max, it's yummy. Absolutely. There are good Dior scents out there, but that also comes down to a question of taste. Nice that they kept Charlize Theron as the face all these years, or rather the body, says Angela. Is she still the face? I mean, she wasn't the first one, was she? Because I remember loving and being very amused by the first J'Adore advert, which had the Barry White song, wasn't it? Was it Giselle or Heidi Klum? I forget the model's name, but she went into a pool of gold, which was perfect image for that perfume. And then for the longest time, obviously they've used Charlize Theron. Let us go to Poison. Such a well, we've talked about Poison a lot on this channel already. Anyway, the original came out in 1985, attributed to Jean Guichard, attributed to Edouard Flechier, attributed sometimes to Dominique Ropion. Who knows? Probably only the people who made it know who made it. But it was a Givaudan creation. It must have been one of a few of those grand 80s perfumes like Antaeus and Must de Cartier and Giorgio, etc. You know the rest. Isatis and Amarige, those huge 80s florals, those scene stealers. And you can smell it from there, says Angela. Absolutely you can. But this is actually one of my favorite perfumes of all time. Let's pronounce Poison like a true Frenchman. See, I've never done that. I've never done the Poison. I've always said Poison. I don't know why. It's always been Poison for me. And actually, funnily enough, for those of you watching from Poland or you speak Polish, my maternal grandmother, this was her signature scent. She absolutely adored it. But she always just called it trucizna, which is the Polish word for poison. What are you wearing? And she would just say trucizna, which also kind of worked. I think trucizna is a good name for this perfume. It's pretty damn good because it sounds like fish if you say it like that, says Natasha. I know, and I don't know because fish is poisson, whereas poison is poison, right? I think. I don't know. Somebody who speaks French can tell me. So it's got a z, I think, if you're saying it in the French way. Trucizna, says Anna. Yes, there you go. It's still really good in this extrait form, and I was so pleased that it's still really good. I was so pleased that the Miss Dior is still really good. Again, Poison has had to be reformulated because the materials that would have given it its tuberosy, rosy quality, I think I'm right in saying that they're the damascones. You can't use them anywhere near as much as you used to be able to use them in the 80s. And so Poison also has been neutered to some extent. But here, Demachi has done a very, very good job. I think what he has done is that he's made it less less herbal. Maybe it's a little bit less angry. Maybe it's a little bit less claw-bearing. But the tuberose is there, and perhaps it's fruitier. So maybe that's where he's compensated. It might be more honeyed-like. So it's Poison that has a sort of slower acting quality. And I've just got a message on my phone, which I shouldn't have, my camera, because I use my phone as my camera, right? That was a bit annoying. Never mind. I thought I'd disabled everything. Let's see what the little booklet says. Is this the one that mentions Demachi? No, so I must have imagined that. None of them mentions Demachi, which is interesting because they talk about the perfume creator. So as it says here, the legendary Accord of 1985 is faithfully reinterpreted by Dior's perfume creator in a deep and intense trail of scent, a floral elixir tinged with spices in a blend of exceptional ingredients, coriander, vanilla, tuberose absolute, and rose de may absolute from the Domaine de Manon. And I also have loved, I've always loved the woody elements of Poison. There's this kind of suggestion of cedar, I think, that maybe comes in connection with the sort of more camphoraceous facets of the tuberose, or maybe the minty facets of the tuberose. It works a treat. Oh, and somebody mentioning Midnight Poison there. I don't know if I was a huge fan of Midnight Poison. I know it's got a lot of fans out there. This is I can't do this now without wrecking everything. This is an older bottle of Poison extract. Actually, let's do a comparison. Although it's not fair to do it at the same time, is it? Because my nose will be affected by the one that I've smelt already, and I must label them carefully if we're going to be doing a side by side. Ooh, that juice. The older juice is darker. But it could also just be because it's older, right? Because the juices do age. Let's just label this straight away. I'll just write Poison now and Poison then, shall I? Let's see. Yeah, this is... a lot could be to do with the fact that it has just aged, okay? But this feels angrier, and I think that's why we always loved Poison, but it's really not fair doing side by sides, whereas the new one definitely has got that kind of pencil shavings feel to it. The old one is dangerous. The old one you really don't want to mess with, but the current one is, I think, still pretty good. Let's just look at comments for the final time because I think we've got to round things up. Where are we? Is there cèdre in this perfume, says Leona? There may well be. Do you wear Poison Persolaise or just Madame Persolaise? Asks Ramsey. Actually, out of the two of us, I think it is more often me that wears it. But I usually just wear it for myself. I don't go out wearing it. Alliance says, oh, I've seen I'm going to the Dior boutique in Warsaw tomorrow and I'm going to ask to smell trucizna. I think you should see how they react. Come back here and tell us how they react. Poproszę trucizna. I think they will go down absolutely fine. Ashfaq is saying each strip contains at least 2 wearings. Yeah, I know, but I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you. And I worked with someone who bathed in it back in the day, says Angela. Oh, they must have smelled good, though. Where are we here? Eric says, I just bought a bottle of Midnight Poison locally. Gosh, it's good, but not with the eBay price. I got it for its original retail. Gosh, they didn't know what they were selling there, did they? Okay, thank you very much for tuning into this. And hats off to Dior for giving us these. If ever you go into a Dior boutique and you manage to smell these, find this video, come back, leave a comment on what you thought of the extraits. Let's just very quickly go through that. This is the Miss Dior. It's so good still. It's just... what is it? It's just razor sharp. It's razor sharp. You know, what was the movie with Rosamund Pike that came out earlier this year? I Care a Lot. She played. Look that up and maybe watch a trailer for I Care a Lot if you haven't seen. She would wear this, except you don't have to be. You don't have to be evil to wear this. She plays quite an evil character, but oh, it's wonderful. And let's just check out the Diorissimo one more time. No, that's not the Diorissimo. That's the J'Adore, which is fine. Yeah, the Diorissimo is gently doing its thing. Wonderful pieces of work, classics of perfumery. Certainly 3 of these here are absolute classics, and J'Adore is a kind of, late 20th century modern classic, still doing very, very well. Thank you very much for tuning in. Like I said, I will do my very, very best to squeeze out another video at some point this weekend. But whether or not I will be able to depends on circumstances beyond my control. But until then, be good, take care, and thanks for watching. Bye.